What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the 116 Life here on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 140. Listen, shout out to everyone that's tuned in right here, right now. Of course, you already know it's your girl, Meah Evans here. And of course, I got the one and only Ace Harris in the building. What's going on, Ace?
What's up? How you feeling, man?
How you feeling, man? That watch looking nice, Ace. That new?
Yeah, it's old, but you know what I'm saying? It's a little treasure.
It's light work.
It's just a little treasure on earth. That's it.
Treasure on earth, man. Listen, Ace, we got a great episode for this one, man. Listen, I feel like I've heard them say that they are one of the realest couples to talk about relationships in the kingdom. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna co-sign that, man. They have an amazing podcast called Pillow Talking with the Iwegbus. And I love, because they said their name sounds like the Obamas. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just love it. You know what I'm saying? We want to welcome Tekeishia and Nnamdi Iwegbu here to the show. What is going on, y'all, man? How are y'all feeling?
Amazing. I'm glad to be here with y'all.
Listen,
man.
thank y'all for being here, man. So I want to just talk about what the season of life is for y'all right now. Describe like what life has been like, how 2024 has been treating you. Describe the season you're in right now.
Yeah, I'll say for probably for the both of us, I'll speak for both of us, this is definitely a year to be locked in. Like, I feel like all the other years, many of us have been kind of doing the will of God. Like, we've been kind of tiptoeing into what he's called us to do. And this is the window that I think that God has given us to, like, step in this. Like, this is your time. This is your hour. Step in it. There will be favor on what you do. You will be anointed for what you do. And I feel like we've been experiencing the harvest of just being locked in. Like, even the difficulties, like some of the things, the decisions that we've had to make of like cutting things off and ending things and walking away from stuff has been the fruit of like saying no, doing the hard things. We've been reaping like the benefit of locking in. So this is our lock-in year. This is lock in, stay tapped in, walk in it, believe in it.
Yeah, we're believing God for a quantum leap in our lives. And what that takes is radical immersion and wherever you're trying to get better at. One thing that God showed me in 2023 was, you need to get better emotionally. Like, you need to get emotionally healthy so you can see yourself in the right light. Because a lot of times we can't really see who we are, what's our capabilities and things of that sort because so much baggage and things has been done in the past. And so, man, we've been locking into different programs and just growing because we know it's a tribe that's tied to our voice. But if because of toxic emotional health and things that's weighing us down, not having the right view of ourselves, they will never hear us if we don't go out there and do what it is that we're supposed to do. So it's like, all right, Lord, I'm like, the gifts and the experiences that you've put in me, okay, we got to go out. We got to go reach the people that you've called us to reach.
Yeah, that's good. How have you been handling this lock-in, this time you're in? I've been seeing that even on your social media a lot, just saying like how locked in you are. And I feel like that's a real exciting time to be in because God's calling you. You got he has something for you, but sometimes there's pressure, like you said, cutting people off, having hard conversations. Definitely. How have y'all been handling it? How have y'all been like encouraging each other, staying focused through that locked in time? Yeah,
it's a blessing to do it with someone. So even when I'm having a difficulty to stay disciplined, I look at him. I mean, discipline in the area of even fitness. Like, he'll get up and go to the gym. I'm like, well, you're not gonna beat me. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get in there too. Like, he'll get up in the morning and be in his word. But it's just holding one another accountable. But I think it looks like if you don't have the friends or the community that you need to stay locked in, they're not for you. So if they're a distraction, if they're like, I mean, of course we still have fun and there's joy there, but it's not at the top of the list of the priority. Like, when you wasted so many years and you've been so insecure, you've been operating out of delay, this is not the time to like kick it and have fun. Don't get me wrong. Yes, God is going to give you joy. But I feel like this season has been so beautiful because now the joy is coming out of fulfillment of doing what he's called us to do. So it's not like, I just told Nnamdi this the other day. I'm like, my calling used to be like this separate thing over here. And now it's like, no, it's who I am. Yeah. Even like, I think about, I started going on a tangent. Y'all, I think of stories.
No, you good. This is your show.
I think about it, but I'm thinking about even the friends that I attracted when I compartmentalized my calling. And I'm like, dang, why don't they align with this? It's like, because you put your calling over here. This is who I am. And then it's like, why aren't we matching? Why is this a distraction? Because you are not fully immersed into who God has called you to be. So when you have those distractions, you can't really operate. When you got friends that are low level, they're not operating at the same integrity. You're dating someone that's not at the same integrity level. It's like, no, locked in looks like, if you are not locked in too, you can't really be around us right now. And that's not an arrogant thing. I'm called to, like, I had to really sit down. I had a really scary situation that happened on my birthday that really woke me up to like, oh, life is literally like fleeting. Like this thing can leave at any moment. There is no more options to kind of serving God. I'm literally created to do this. I'm literally created. I am a walking vessel to be used by him. And that's gonna be a part of everything. My friends, how I do my hair, how I dress, every part of me is to serve him. And so locked in right now is like, if you're not a part of this, if you are not, the keyword, assigned to me in this season, you can't be a part of it. You won't get it. You won't get that I can't be on the phone with you all day.
1,000%. We're only getting and connecting with people who's aligned with the vision that God has for our life. Yeah. Straight up. That's it.
Been distracted long enough.
This is officially the Iwegbus show, y'all.
No, officially, you know what I'm saying?
This is y'all giving me like real like great teammates, warrior type energy.
Amen.
Which is kind of, but it also feels like, well, we can dive deep more in the other segment. I want to see that. It seems like something that is developed over time in y'all. I can just see like you guys are emitting a type of perspective that feels like wisdom, growth, and now equipping other people to see that too. So I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure we can dive more in the story, but yeah, I mean,
really, you know, we feel like we wasted so much time. Sometimes it would be us bickering and arguing or doing whatever, or just tripping over ourselves. Like myself, I'll speak about just self-sabotaging. I've tried to shut down pillow talking with the Iwegbus several times. And it all has to do with my insecurity. Yeah. I'm like, she's the one. She's TK Lee. Everybody know, hey, no, you got it. I want to play. I like to play the background, and it's like, nah, time out for all that. Like, no, I could. My days are numbered. I could be in front of the king. Like this could be my last day.
I have a question. What made you feel like you were led to play the background? What was going on there? Like,
well, just first off, my wife is ultra talented. You know, as a musician, like just everything she does it top notch. Like she's just that. So for me, I've always been the type of person who was ready to just support anyone's vision. I've always been that person who wanted to serve, even at church. Yeah. I was like, cool, I don't want to lead the song. I'd rather just go ahead and sing tenor. And y'all lead it, I'm good. And I think the underlying, the main thing about that is really just fear. Straight up just fear. Fear of judgment, what people are going to say, all of that. And so, can I say I'm fully free? No, but I'm working through that. And people are going to watch me work through that. And somebody else will be blessed by seeing me work through that. And then they'll go get free as well, because they'll be like, I connect with that. I connect with that, man. I've been insecure in that area. I've carried that type of emotional baggage. And to see Nnamdi get through that, especially people who really know you from back in the day, man, I believe that's going to bless some other people, and I bring them along with me, man. And they could be truly who God called them to be as well.
That's hard.
Yeah, I think this is a good point to talk about as well, like how people are wanting to heal before they do it. Like they're wanting things to be complete. They want things to be at the fullness. They want to be before you even start, that's right? So and that's pride, number one, because you want to present a false version of yourself. But I mean, the people that we love in the Bible, we love them because we saw the full story. We saw how David was. What can I say on here?
Hey, is it in the word?
Let's keep it in the house.
He was out there.
Okay, he was out there.
He was outside.
He was outside, right? Yeah. He was outside for a very long time and continued to be outside too. He was outside, and God loved him and God used him. We love those stories, but for somehow we want to flip it and be like, well, I don't want to arrive until I'm perfect. I don't want to arrive until I get this body. I don't want to arrive until our marriage gets to this place. I don't want to show up until I get that camera. I don't want to start until I sound like this. And it's like, no one is connected to that story.
Nobody.
Everybody wants to see you go. That's why we love the people that's been in the game for a long time, because you can be like, dang, they was recording on their iPhone back then. And so one of the things that we stand on is heal as you go. Yes. As you're moving in it, like, just heal. Don't be stagnant. Don't be okay with being mediocre. Good. But like, sometimes you do show up in a mediocre way. Sometimes you are showing up and doing it afraid, doing it insecure, doing it second guessing. I feel like almost everything we've done has been like, is this good? It didn't sound good. Baby, I was cutting you off and you was doing this. And like, we've picked at everything. And then we get this message, oh my God, I was about to leave my husband. Thank you for that episode. Oh my God, I had the divorce papers. Thank you for that episode. Oh my God, I did not want to be with her. Oh my God, I was just about to step out. Then we get these messages where like, we're tripping. Like, we are tripping over ourselves to think that people are even attracted to something that seems to even appear to be perfect. We want to hear the sad story. We want to hear the beginning of the journey. So I'm proud of you, baby. I say this all the time. People need him. Yes. Even when he was saying that he plays the background, like, that's the best leader that you can have, someone that doesn't have to have the spotlight. You need the humility. You need someone that's not like, put me on. It's like, no, he's in the back. He's wiping the toilets. Y'all done seen him for 10 years, serving and mopping and wiping windows down. Of course, this is the best leader that you can have. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, that was so good. Y'all said so much within just a short couple of minutes.
She speaks into me like this, like from the beginning. Like, I would not be the man that I am today. Some of the achievements that I've had, man, I had to think about all the awards that I've won, how many times I've had so much favor, and it really is because of who I chose as my wife.
Yeah.
That's why we tell people all the time, that's going to be the second biggest decision that you make, other than Christ, is who you marry.
Absolutely.
And it really is just God's grace, because we'll get into our story and all, but it wasn't done perfectly. Like, I probably picked her out of, times that I probably should have been by myself. It's secluded and actually getting more time with God. But man, it's like Dave Ramsey say, he gave me better than what I deserved. Straight up. He gave me better than what I deserved, and she spoke me into where I'm at right now.
That's so good.
She spoke before I was managing, before I was doing a lot of different things that I've done. It's all because of who he's put me with. Like, he's worked through her to speak to me, show me. It's like, no, call me out. I'm like, no, you're greater. You're greater than what you're displaying. I'm going to tell you to go ahead and walk in it.
Sheesh, man. So I want to know how you guys got into doing the Pillow Talking with the Iwegbus podcast. I really want to know, like, what led y'all to do that? Like, did you always want to do it? Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, so first it started off just as a vision that God gave me when I was in the shower. It seemed like this when he talks to me and shows me when I'm in the shower, and I start getting these. It's like I need a notepad in the shower or something. Some of my ideas I've been let slip because I was in the shower to have nothing to write on. But this one, it kept sticking with me. It's like, man, you guys need to do something where you're talking to people. And at this time he told me, and I was like, unqualified opinion. Like, I felt like because of how, we had a kid out of wedlock and all these different things, I felt unqualified. So that's what I thought it should be called. So we started out as Unqualified Opinion, and we just wanted to really just talk to people about just current events as believers and give it, talk about it, biblically, like the way it should be. Like, this is how culture is doing it, but this is what the kingdom says, the way this should be handled as far as that goes. And we were pushed
literally
more into relationships. She wanted to do the relationship stuff. I didn't. Again, because I didn't feel qualified. I felt like, okay, it needs to be, we didn't have kids out of wedlock. We were abstaining the whole time. I just, every time that you look at your pulpit, a lot of times these pastors, and nothing against it, man. I think the best testimony is no testimony. Okay, that you didn't go and do all these different things, but a lot of times you see a man with a wife, they had all the kids together. That's what I think the world, that's what they wanted. It's like, no, like they actually need to see you. So I was freaking lost my train of thought there.
But we were looking at, first of all, we were doing something completely opposite. We were running away from the call. Okay. And even though he's saying that I wanted to do relationships, I did not at the same time. Because I felt like I was a terrible wife, and I knew it almost. Wow. And so I was like, as I was telling you earlier before we got on, I was like, if I talk about this, I gotta actually stand on it. I'm not the type of person that can like lie in front of my husband, in front of everybody. First of all, he gonna correct me. That's one thing he always done did. Like, okay, you saying you submissive, but you wasn't listening this whole week. Like, let's talk about it. Yeah. So I ran away because I knew that it would hold me accountable. Even though I knew it would be easy for us to talk about these things, I'm like, if I get on here, especially because of what I'm called to, I'm specifically called to women that want to be wives and do it God's way. So be submissive, be compassionate and gentle and all of these things. But I knew if I talked about it, I had to be it. So I was okay with doing it just because I'm confident. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to talk. That's nothing. But when I really thought about it, I'm like, ooh, I got to be her. Like, I actually got to do that. So we ran away from it for a very long time. And over the time, mind you, I was still doing music. And so that was the main focus of what we did as far as like ministry. But over time, people just kept saying, we love y'all together. Y'all together, y'all together. And this is early marriage days. This is baby mama drama. This is court fighting for kids. This is full chaos. This is our church disowning us because we got pregnant out of wedlock. This is the midst of all this. So we're like, now how the heck y'all want us out of everybody to talk about relationships? So it was a little bit of self-sabotage, insecurity, but also like we had a lot of people against us even being together. And so we ended up moving. Oh no, did we do pillow talking before we got here? Now I can't remember.
I don't know if we did pillow talking. Yeah, we did. Yeah,
did we?
Yeah, we did. No, we didn't. So, we actually didn't. We kind of got pushed into it. And one of the things that when we even started our YouTube, one of our virtual mentors was Ruslan KD. You probably know Ruslan.
Shout out Ruslan.
And shout out to Ruslan for real. And he said within the YouTube course, he was like, your crowd will kind of tell you what they want from you. And so they kept choosing the relationship deal.
Yep.
I was like, no. I'm like, no, that's not about to be us. We're going to talk about something else.
Yeah.
And they kept choosing that. And then we got it confirmed when we went to a workshop.
We did?
Yeah, we did for Shan's.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that's
morning meetup, social proof.
Moving here. Moving here was what did almost everything. Like, we were in an environment where we just wasn't celebrated. So we what do you call it? We made ourselves small because we wanted to, like, where we come from, it's like you got to go through some years before you can claim to be someone that can talk about something. So, I mean, we've actually heard like you need 10 years in your marriage before you can really talk about it. So we kind of had that in the background. All this toxic stuff that came from the pulpit, like you're a novice if you run too fast. Like, you need some years under you. But when we got here, the honor, the respect, the lives that were impacted, the couples that drew to us. Like, our first year here, we did a marriage event and had like 20 people all together just in our living room, ministering to them, and they're respecting what we're saying. And so moving here, the environment, that's a whole podcast in itself. And your environment will really make you or break you. Yeah. And so when we were in Kansas City, we knew we were gifted, but not necessarily called to be in this lane. When we got here, we were like, oh, we're called. We're literally created for this.
No, and it's evident hearing y'all talk, listening to the podcast, y'all, even before we even turn the mics on, the cameras on, it's so evident how made y'all are for this. And when we come back after this break, we're going to dive into like the genesis of y'all's lives, your faith. So don't go anywhere. It's the 116 Life here on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 140. We'll be right back. And we're back here on the 116 Life here on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 140. Listen, we're happy you're back here with us. Ace, we got a good one, man. We got a real good one, man. We've been talking on and off camera, man. We got Tekeishia and Nnamdi Iwegbu here. We want to talk a little bit about how you both got introduced to your faith and how y'all met Jesus and how the kickstart started. So, TK, I want to start with you. How did you get introduced to your faith?
So my mom was actually an assistant pastor. So I grew up in church. I've been knowing Jesus all my life. I was having prophetic dreams at 12. I was ministering. I was the worship leader, the drummer. So I was in a small church. So I was the photographer, the drummer, the worship leader, and the praise dancer. And I've just always been like in love with Jesus, like my whole life. I remember even on school nights, we would be at Denny's, me, my mother, my grandmother, and the pastor, which is my uncle, and we would be at Denny's, Bibles open, drinking coffee, just talking about the Bible. So I knew the stories of Moses and David and just was so intrigued about Jesus. And then I felt like I personally began to walk with him around 12. Like, that's when I was like, I love this man. I love this God. Of course, I had my backsliding stage from about 15 to 19. I lived a very fast, radical life. He was like, I'm gonna give you 4 years to be a mess because you're gonna have to serve me for the rest of your life. And so I had 4 years of just trying a little bit of everything. But around 20, I broke up with all my secular friends, and I said, y'all, I'm called to serve God, and been rocking with him ever since.
Yeah. So for me, pretty much raised up Christian, but really wasn't, I guess, deep into the faith. Okay. I remember getting baptized around 16, and it was just something I heard from the pulpit. It made me feel like if I don't get baptized, I'm gonna go to hell. So I was like, all right, I'm about to go get baptized. But really, after that, wasn't living for him, doing what I wanted to do. And about 2009, 2010, went to a church
in Kansas City.
In Kansas City, yeah, that was just way different than what I thought church was. I wasn't going to church, okay, because now I'm out of my mama's house. I don't have to go to church or anything. Right. And so one of my boys, invited me out to the church. And I go into this church, and it was radical. It had, like, at that time, I don't know if you know P. Diddy, he had like something called Making the Band. Yeah. And he had a word, I can't say it on here, but he used to call anus. That's all we're gonna say that. Yeah, he said something like that, and they had say no to whackness or something on the wall, and the pastor had on Jordans and stuff. I'm like, hold on, what's going on here?
It was different.
Yeah, it was different. And he was speaking the word, and I never heard the word like this. It was in such terms that I can relate. Yeah, it wasn't like that. And I was like, hold up, man, this dude cannot be speaking from the Bible. And I'm go to this version that he said. I'm like, hold up, this is actually real. So anyway, I started locking in with the Lord truly, and really gave my life to him fully 2012. One of the biggest parts for me was purity, actually not fornicating. And so I was like, okay, Lord, if you're real, you're going to have to really help me through this. So 2012, that was the longest that I went abstaining, was over a year. I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to lay it all down for you. For sure. And I just started to see him move on everything. I knew it was supernatural. I knew it wasn't me. I knew it had to be him. And then just was locked in from there. Haven't been perfect through it. But man, been locked in since then. My life has been way better.
I want to know more, like, especially like brother to brother, like black man to black man. How was it trying to like live for the Lord? How was your friend groups of other black men, and what was the dynamic there?
Yeah, so really, I had to in 2012 at that time. That's when I first started had to cut off some people. Okay, some people that just was kind of laughing. I remember a brother of mine who was just laughing. He's like, "Man, what you gonna be up there with your hands all raised up and all that?" I'm like, "No, I am. Like that's what I'm gonna do." And so what I had to do was start to lovingly, cut them off. And I started to get around a community of brothers that was living for Christ, people in the church that actually were trying to live this thing out. Sure. And we were all within our mid-20s. And and we would do things in community. We would go out to eat, and, all of it be men and women, but we would just all be there conversing till midnight.
How important do you feel like it was, even bringing you in, Tekeishia, like having friends of the same age group and like-mindedness during that walk? Like if those communities weren't there, talk about how things...
I didn't have that. That's how I ended up with him, actually. So I went to the same church that he's talking about. That's actually how we met. Okay. No woman reached out to me. There was no sisterhood for me. So he had a very different experience at this church. So Nnamdi was actually my first friend. Literally, I met him right after, like I said, I was 19 or 20 when I said bye to my secular friends, and then I went to this church that he's talking about. And I'm like, I was really excited. Like, oh my gosh, I'm about to have godly women around me. It didn't happen. So Nnamdi was actually my first, for real Christian friend. And so I was excited to be around him. And then, one thing led to another, and we're married. Right. But yeah, so I didn't have Christian friends. And I remember, now that you're saying this, I remember telling my mother, I was like, I remember saying something like, it's impossible almost to do this walk without like-minded people. Because I truly love God. Like, I really did love him. I've been in love with the Lord for all of my life. But all my friends was rolling up, drinking, mixing what they like and sleeping around, all of that. And I'm like, yeah, this can't go together. But I'm lonely if I don't hang out with them. Right. And then, what loneliness brings, now you're back doing what you're doing again. And so he was actually my first friend. But I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's really difficult to not do this walk with community that can keep you, number one, busy. If you do have a little problem being out in the streets, you need that group of friends. Like, come over, let's go to the bowling alley, let's go skating real quick. So I unfortunately did not have that. I did not experience that in my early days. And I now looking back, I knew what God was doing, but I didn't have sisterhood at all. At all.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we are in a culture of I love God, but I don't love church.
Yeah.
Or I love God, I love church, but I don't love church people.
Yes.
And I understand the hurt that people are coming from when they say that. But I can testify in my own life, and it's kind of like how you were in your life. Like, we were made for community because we need other believers to equip us, to sharpen us, hold us accountable when it's so easy to be swayed to the spaces that take us further away from God. So I just shout out your experiences and even your experience in the way that it kind of brought y'all together, because which essentially is community. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's facts.
So talk about a little bit like the next steps in y'all's relationship and walk, and how did things kind of progress after that.
Yes.
The story.
We're moving from friends. We want the in
So we
between.
about to get into the room.
So he was at that church for a while. I went there. I was in a situationship for sure, very childish relationship, and he was actually engaged, and so he actually proposed to his ex at this church, and that's the backstory of also why they was like, why are y'all together, because you was engaged. So he actually proposed to his ex at the church on New Year's, so a big holiday. It dang near went viral in our little small city, so everybody knew this couple to be together. Well, they broke it off silently just a couple months afterwards. I'm obviously at this church. We weren't close. We were on the praise team, but we weren't close. It was very much good morning, good evening, passing by, like I said, both in different relationships. Well, there was an event that I went to, and his ex was there, and we're all cool. Mind you, I'm not even thinking about, we're not even friends at this point. And so I see him on Sunday. I was like, hey, why weren't you at this event? And he was like, oh yeah, we're not together anymore. That's her friend. I was like,
That's right before we went on stage. You had that little
yeah, it
look on your
was.
face.
So he says that in that moment he could tell. I was like, but I don't really remember like.
This is actually good. It's like a real keep going. Y'all cooking
He
right now.
says that I've been like pursuing him and doing all this.
I
for
remember
so
when you
long.
was sitting on the steps. We both was on the worship team.
We were,
and so we was about to get on. I just seen this look on her face, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he was like, oh yeah, we're not together, and I think I was just like, okay, like maybe noted, maybe. I mean, now looking back, I probably was maybe looking at you, but shortly after, this is how, babe.
It's okay. She's like, oh, he free, okay.
No, because I think I was in a relationship, but anywho,
You knew he wasn't for you.
I for sure knew that.
He was a kid.
I was very much
Minute
so.
just-
God bless his heart. I
God
pray
bless him.
nothing but blessings for his life. But what ended up happening? Oh, so he ended up getting offered a job that was in the same city that I lived in, and he strangely literally moved into the same exact building that I lived in my apartment. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, this is different. But still, I was very much like, dang, I got a friend. Because mind you, I made no friends in this church. So I was sincerely just excited to have a God-fearing person. He could have been a woman, man. It didn't matter. Like, I was just happy to have a friend. And so, yeah, we started hanging out. We were both single at this time. We started hanging at each other's house.
Shouldn't do that.
Look.
Never do that.
Red flag number 1. Don't be getting these cribs. Do
be
not
alone
do it.
if you're attracted.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. And I thought I was so tough. I felt like I was doing a Deion Sanders dancing to the end zone on the devil. Like, you can't touch me, because I was good at controlling my flesh.
Yeah.
And she would come, and she would basically be on the couch. I'd be somewhere right here.
Far.
She'd be where you at right there. And we would just talk for hours. And she would just go back to her place. And we did this for a while.
We did it for a very long time. That's why we thought we were safe, because it was like nothing had ever
We
happened.
didn't talk about other relationships in a way. Like I told you I was wanting to date outside the race and everything.
Yeah, you did. I know you want to tell the story. I know you want to tell the story.
You told me, wait, what'd you say?
Shout out to 116 Life. We're getting into it, y'all. No.
He was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and date me a white girl. And I was like, well, just wait a little bit. I said, it's some beautiful black women out here. But I feel like I was not thinking about myself even through this time. You know, when you like a dude, like when you go over to him, you're going to like look cute. I would go over here with sweats, tank top. I was working a very manly job at this time. Like, I was not thinking about him in that way. And so that's why it's like you still have to be mindful of the flesh, because we're so secure, like friends. We're finding out we love music. We're both healing when it comes to like just breaking up in our relationships. We go to the same church. There's so many things that we have in common. And then in the beginning, we were on the separate ends of the couch. Next thing you know, we're like literally right next to each other. And we ended up doing what we shouldn't have did in that time. We got pregnant the first time we were intimate, and everything went up after that.
Yeah, so much guilt, shame, all types of things that came after that, man. that we couldn't barely even the first 2 to 3 years of our marriage.
Yeah.
We had to deal with those consequences. And so that pain from dealing with doing things out of order is what put the fight in our hearts to say, listen, especially to the singles, don't do it this way because the culture is telling you it's okay to do it this way. Shack up. Go ahead and sleep with whoever you want to. And all it's like, no. Let me tell you, you just be surviving. As my mentor, my pastor would say, you be surviving. The King's way, you'll be thriving. Yeah. And I've seen people be able to thrive way before where we're at right now. We're just like, we're about to be 8 years married, you know, and we're just now really stepping fully into thriving. Yeah. But I've seen people who didn't do a lot of these things out of order. Thank God for those examples. And they were able to step into their calling earlier and not have to deal with so much baggage and so much pain. We barely made it here because of those decisions. You know, we laugh about it now, but it's so serious. It's so serious, you know, getting intimate before marriage and doing all these different things out of order and not just taking the time to figure out who is this person emotionally? What's my non-negotiables? Like, what is it that I don't want and all those things? And thank God I had already had that. So I knew what I got was what I really wanted. But some people just don't do that. And most people, they don't end up where we're at. They end up in divorce court. Yeah. And so I'm like, I don't want you there. I want you. My thing is, I want to help you avoid the pains and pitfalls that we went to, take you this detour route so you can get to have a marriage that is blissful. You don't have to go through all these things. Don't get it wrong. You're going to go through some stuff regardless.
For sure, yeah. 1,000.
But we want to help you with that preventative maintenance. That's what we like. That's my passion, my heart. Yeah. I try to speak that to dudes because once you get to the skins touching, you in euphoric fog and you start making excuses for the red flags. The brother be like, yeah, man, no, she good. I think I'll be good on that. Girls be like, oh, no, I'm going to change him as soon as we get to that altar.
For sure.
He going to change all of that different stuff. Not going to happen. Yeah. You got to submit it all to the Lord. We're only here by his grace because we had a repentant heart. Yeah. Like we literally, both of us, we would find each other in rooms just crying. We already married, but just still dealing with so much guilt, shame, and hurt. And I'm not telling you, you should not stay in that place. Yeah, we stayed there for way too long.
I was going to say, like, Nnamdi is such he holds himself accountable so well. But I also have to add in, the shame lasted longer than what it should have. Yes, for sure. The guilt lasted way longer than what it should have because of who we were around at this time. Wow. So something that we did that almost everybody do, which is like, fornicate and like not be pure, it was turned all the way up. Like it was blown out of proportion. I remember like a year after getting out of like the shame and the fog of just being super duper duper shameful, like, now why the heck did y'all blow that up? Like, don't get me wrong, like it was wrong, it was bad, but like to like disown us and like to really blow this thing up to where everyone's looking at us crazy, it was just blown out of proportion. So we held ourselves in shame. So he's saying, yes, I do agree, like when you're in sin, the consequence is shame, of course. But if you are in community or you're under bad leadership that like reprimands you and like beats you down because of that, you'll stay in shame way long. The Bible says, for now there is no condemnation. And when you repent and you ask for forgiveness, that thing is forgotten about. Absolutely. Oh, baby, we lived in that for 5 years. Yeah, easily.
First 5 years of your marriage.
Oh, easily. Because well, first of all, we stayed in this church where we weren't.
We went back to it. We left, but we went back because this was someone who was basically I looked at as a spiritual father. Yeah. And unfortunately not noticing at that time might have idolized in a way. Sure. And so I just felt like I couldn't get fed there. Kansas City's real small. Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't feel like it was really many dope churches and to this day. And so we went back to this place because it felt like that's the only place I felt like I could really grow. Until I finally looked up one day and was like, why am I holding myself hostage to this? Yeah. Like, I don't have to do this.
God is everywhere.
Literally.
Yeah, like we got people who they still look at us from what we did then and they're still treating us like what we did then. Yeah. It's like, no.
God don't see you like that.
Yeah, he don't. Anytime we got around we got other people that was other churches that we would go and see and we would talk about that, they'd be like, hey bro, hey, it's washed up under the blood, brother.
Yep.
He's like,
Done, bro.
He's like, it's washed up under the
Every
blood,
time.
brother. Like, hey, you know y'all can come over here, right?
Yeah.
We
Oh my gosh. It was so many pastors scouting us like, look, if your pastor don't love you, you can come over here and you'll get paid. So like what you want to do. But yeah, I had to insert that because I know Nnamdi is like, we did this. And I'm like, yeah, but our community was also very bad.
Yeah.
Like I just have to stand on that. It was overdone. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I even thinking like how we were trying to force this situation to happen to be at this church. I think the whole time God was like, y'all gonna be in Atlanta. Like don't get too attached here. Y'all about to get up out of here and actually, and I know this is so cliche to say, but literally go where you are celebrated and not tolerated. That's not just for people to praise you, but who you can bloom into when you are actually celebrated, not coddled, but like, no, we honor y'all. We see what you're trying to do. We see that y'all are on y'all face every single Sunday. We see this and we're going to celebrate you. We were tolerated and it, oh my goodness, that's a whole nother story because it affected our marriage in such a terrible way. Like the lack of trust, because I'm like, you got me in this church. None of these women like me. Your ex is here. I got to look at her every Sunday, hug her. She's a freaking usher, so I see her as soon as I walk in the door.
Oh my gosh.
You proposed in front of this church. I mean, you proposed to her in front of this church. Like, yeah, they don't like me. So the resentment that was built right here, I remember our counselors told us, they was like, y'all are straight. Like, y'all are good together, but this church is going to be y'all problem. And it was for almost 5 years of our marriage. Yeah. Literally, as soon as we let go, it was like...
Yeah, it's power and proximity, man. Like, that's why environment is everything, man. You got to get around people who celebrate you. It's like, nah, man, I'm not about to let you stay there. We going forward from here, man.
Yes.
So thank God for just divinely speaking to me and just saying, hey, listen, the time is up. I know what so-and-so, what that leader was to you.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with him, said, God is telling me that, hey, I gotta go forward.
Yeah.
And it wasn't nothing against him. It's like, I gotta go get what truly God has for me. And I had just grew up and matured in my mind. Then it's the first people, it was the first family had even really brought me to the gospel. So I didn't know nothing else. This was family. So it was hard to actually do, man. But thank God we made that move.
Man, I can't imagine what that's like, man. Yeah. I can't imagine what that's like. But I'm so grateful to God that he led y'all here. Amen. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, we're able to celebrate y'all, having y'all here. I've heard so many great things about you guys before even getting the chance to meet you. So it's so crazy how God would just use all the things, even the things that people are slandering your name, even if it was in his church, to bring him glory. That's so fire, man. I'm so happy that y'all were able to share that. Now, when we come back, we're going to dive into, like I said, we got the realest couple who talk about marriage, relationships. So we're going to dive into those topics right back when we come here on the 116 Live, Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 140. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We're back here on the 116 Live here on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 140. We got the Iwegbus here. Yeah. We're talking about so many dope things on and off camera. And man, this is a really good one for real.
No, this is super dope. We was talking like y'all story. Like I feel like this story is really bigger than this segment. Yeah, it's like a whole probably like a mini doc. Because it's something that what y'all went through. Some people would probably either not just leave a church, they'd probably leave the faith. Y'all still standing strong. But I think you said it earlier on the break, Tekeishia, like y'all story has equipped y'all to be able to speak into and share with so many other couples. Talk about how the trials and the early starts have prepared y'all to be a voice to other couples in marriage.
Yeah, it has put righteous anger in me for sure. There's a righteous anger that I have for people, number one, that mishandle the pulpit. So leaders that handle the flock just so flamboyantly, like this isn't God's sons and daughters. So we were handled very poorly. Like we were dropped. The ball was dropped on us, and knowing the consequence of just leaders being not really tapped in. Like I'm trying to tiptoe in this.
Dance a little bit, but if you need to shoot it straight, go ahead.
I'm trying to tiptoe because the Lord has been getting on my head. Like, listen, we're gonna love on people through their journey. But no, there's a responsibility. Like at the end of the day, when you claim yourself to be a leader and you're leading people, that's why we take this so seriously. Because when we do something, it impacts and affects our community. But it put a righteous anger in me towards leaders that carry their calling very flamboyantly. But it also put a righteous anger towards sin. So it's put a higher standard and integrity in my life because I know the consequence of it. I know the consequence of fornicating before marriage. Now, we dealing with baby mama drama, and we're dealing with the as my husband calls it, the euphoric fog. And a lot of times women will go in a relationship with their non-negotiables like, okay, a red flag or a non-negotiable is he can't have kids or he can't do this. Baby, as soon as y'all get into bed, those red flags go to the back of the room. Like, oh, that's okay. I can handle that. I can handle that. I can handle that. And because you're in this fog, you go into relationships. That's why we have divorce rate. That's also why the leading divorce, the ones that are filing are women, because I think in a lot of ways choose to be delusional. Like we choose to ignore it. And that's one thing that I talk about that the ladies do not like, but we choose to be delusional. You know that he isn't a God-fearing man. You know that there are all these red flags, but as soon as you connect and you interlock, that goes away. I can fix this. I can heal this. I can change that. He's this version, but I know he's going to be a God-fearing man. Sis, if he ain't in church now, he might not ever be.
Yeah,
he might not ever go.
Right, and that's why we champion sticky statements like don't marry potential, marry reality.
Yes,
we try to stick there like, listen, who you marry now, they may change.
Yeah.
But they may not. Most of the times, that's who
fact.
they are.
That's
at
fact.
the core of it.
That's fact.
What typically their default is. So even if they do try to make some steps forward, they can, and don't get it wrong, they can change.
God
But
can
a lot of
change
times-
them.
Yeah,
For
God
sure.
can change them.
But maybe you can't.
Right. And being a little, older, that's one thing I learned was even in my last relationship before her, I was trying to change somebody, and I thought even putting them in the church. Sometimes that's what women, a lot of times women will do, bring a man into the church and then think that, okay, yeah, he out there, but if I put him in front of the man of God, then he gonna change up. He like, nah, girl, don't leave him. I'm about to hit that straight up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Raise your hands. Go ahead. Okay, cool. We about to go ahead and get some food and then go do what we do, right?
Sure.
And so again, don't marry potential, marry reality, man. Try to make sure that we champion these different things to get it through your head. Like, hey, man, this is a big step that you're about to take, man. So,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think people, to answer your question again, like what was put in us through the process, I think another thing that we have is just this eagerness to like really get it in people's head. Like even when we coach couples, we have to like pull back a little bit because we're so like, wake up, y'all. This is real. I know right now you're having fun, you're sleeping around, and it doesn't seem like nothing has happened, but we are on the other side. And we also know other married people that are on the other side of sleeping around, of just not paying attention. Like it's not just even the follow the Bible and don't sleep around, but it's like there's some logical things that you need to do when you are about to enter a marriage. It's like freaking sit down and talk to them. Like ask, there's even in our marriage, but couples that we'll talk to or just environments, because we're always in married events, where they'll be like, yeah, I want to leave because I found out this, and that. And it's like, well, why y'all didn't talk about that when y'all were dating? Oh, you screwed your way all the way up to the altar. And so we're trying to put this in people like, y'all, get out of the bed. Literally, get out of the bed and talk. Go to their family house. Ask, hey, is your mama on drugs? Like, what's his questions? Is your mama on drugs?
Observe.
Literally observe.
Yes.
Like, look at his friends. He got a bunch of drugged out friends. He is not an anomaly. Yeah. He's probably drugged out too. And she got a bunch of friends that's out here. She's not an anomaly. Yeah. She's probably out here too. So observe. Take your time. And this is another thing, like I said on our podcast last night, the church has rushed people to the altar because they didn't want them to burn. But if you stay busy and intentional, you won't be burning. Like, stay out of the bedroom, right? If you do it in the car, stay out of the car. Meet each other there, right? We're going to talk. We're going to have conversations. Date in community. Have fun. Like, enjoy the company of people, because a lot of times we are, as sisters, we're dating our brothers when we think about it. Like, our brothers in Christ, right? We also have a responsibility with them.
Talk about it.
So if we keep bringing them in our bedrooms, like they ain't met a God-fearing woman. They ain't met a woman that's modest. They ain't met a woman with standards. And all these women are claiming to be Christians. They want to get married, but you keep sleeping with them. So they don't even have a standard of a wife to look at. It's like, man, I say this even with modesty, like, women, I say this all the time, I'm not just modest because God has called me to it, but like our brothers need to see, like that's the beauty of covering up. That's the beauty of walking in a room and being humble and being kind. Like they don't even have the example, so it's our responsibility. But to get back to my point, we are eager about people opening their eyes and seeing, look for a moment, get out of, I just want to get married because the clock is ticking. Like, this is your partner for life. You're going to have kids with him. whatever his demons are, they are about to be yours, sis. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how strong your prayer life is. You can intercede from sunrise to sunset.
Come on.
If that man is crazy, you will eventually be crazy too. I don't care how strong you are. So we want to wake people up to like look at your partners. Like, it's just ridiculous how high divorce is. It doesn't make sense. If you handle dating life, if you handle that better, you wouldn't be getting divorced 2 and 3 times and think that the 4th marriage is gonna be it. It ain't.
Yeah. I want to call out something that you said, Tekeishia, and bring you into it, Nnamdi. Like, a lot of, and I've been married 14 years in July. So
not you humbly sitting back on this one now.
14 years, like,
14 years.
So me and my wife, this conversation is very close to home. We have a lot of friends married. I have a couple of friend groups, and the conversation of marriage is always censored and not getting married, and the tension of trying to be faithful, trying to be pure. What does pure mean?
Yeah.
Like, grace, all these things. So something my wife always kind of have attention about is, it's like we always put a lot of pressure about what the women can do better to present themselves to the men that, that should be pursuing them. And I think there's case in point to that. I've been learning in my, trying to unlearn some bad things about the patriarchal systems that I've grown in. It's like, you know what? Fair. You know what I'm saying? I have triple sisters, but I'm like, you know what?
Wow.
I can't speak to the women as a guy as much. Maybe it's not my role. Shout out to you and and y'all's wisdom.
Yeah.
But I want to speak to the brothers. And because I say this because in the garden,
Talk about it.
At the original fall, serpent deceived Eve, Eve led Adam. And I was like, but why? I'm not here to make a statement. I'm just asking a question. Why did God call Adam first after that transgression?
Ooh.
And it makes me think about, what if men, fathers and sons, holding more men accountable could influence us to just live out these things better? So Nnamdi, as a married man, speak to the brothers, man. Like, what is your word for them? Because I do hear a lot of women, even on these social clips. Shout out some of these blogs we follow. I gotta name drop something. I ain't gonna lie. Spiritual World, Shade Room. Y'all, we always talk about what the women can do better. What can men do better to hold each other accountable, man?
That's good.
And really, to be honest with you, men, as you see, like said in the garden, what you saw was passivity. A lot of times that's what's happening. Letting the woman kind of lead the way, and then we're like, blaming it on her. No, it was her. It was the woman that you gave me. And it's like, we're not standing firm. We're not being assertive. A lot of times here, most of the time, women will do whatever we lead them to do. Yeah. Just period. So guys, first off, we need to take advantage of those that are in the body of Christ, getting around other godly men that are, like, if you're single, you need to be around some married men. Yeah. Okay? Because you need to see, what does it look like to be a godly man? Okay? So you need to get into these. A lot of times we have to, nowadays every church got small groups, but a lot of times people aren't joining. They're not getting in it. Get into those small groups. Get around some dudes with some gray hair. Why?
That's facts.
Because they made some mistakes.
That's facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Good. I like that.
I think that one of the things that we do in culture, a lot of times we champion the guy who seems like he didn't make the mistakes. Talk to the dude who made the mistakes. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times there's brothers who get out of prison and then they try to talk to the youth to tell them what not to do. Yep. But we need to also have the brothers that are married or been divorced a few times. They need to talk to the single brothers to see what they shouldn't do, man. So that's what we got to do. We got to go and learn and glean from those that are further ahead than us. There's some experiences. Even for me, I'm always sitting there like a student, like, man, okay, OG, tell me what this, okay. They can see some things just based off of experience, man. If we stand assertively, if we be the example, I believe a man, like, we're going to be the example, and the woman will follow. I remember being in different counseling sessions, even before we got married, and I felt like the pastor, so he was always on me, like talking to me, like, look at her, man. But what I started to see is, it's something that we talked about last year, that marriage is a mirror. Like, she will eventually do whatever it is that I'm doing. Like she said, whoever you connect with, that's what you'll start to,
and vice versa
do.
too. Yeah,
vice versa. So, men, we have to take a stand, man. Yeah, we have to be the example in the house. Like she said, I wasn't every morning getting up on my face. She need to see you on your face. Yeah. She need to see you praying. She need to see you being unselfish. stepping outside the box. You want her to, give you some when you tap her at the end of the night. You know what I'm saying? When you ain't did nothing, hey, why don't you go ahead and help her on some of the things like doing the dishes? Why don't you go ahead and clean the take care of the kids, clean them up and all those different things. Take something off of her hand a little bit. We have to be that unselfish example, man, and we would have a more thriving relationships overall if we do that.
Man.
Oh, that's so fire. Yeah, TK, I'm going to pass this to you next. I feel like there's a topic speaking about pivoting a little bit from men leading. I feel like there's a topic of conversation that always gets women riled up. Specifically, I say women in general, but even married women. And that's, I read this scripture the other day. It was so funny. Wives, submit to your husbands.
Yeah.
And we live in a generation where, don't get me wrong, women are powerful, but it's just anytime we say that, wives submit to your husbands, women get defensive. And it's as if it's a bad thing. And I feel like you're the perfect person to speak into that. What would you say? Like, what have you learned when it came to that in your marriage? What's your stance on that?
Yeah, so I dang near get cussed out on social media every day because of this. It's definitely a curse word to people, like the word submission to women. And as I, first of all, just look at myself, one of the most dangerous snares is being unaware of yourself. And so a lot of times women will say these things like, well, if I get a man that can provide an environment that I can trust him, I'll be submissive. And it's like, that's not true. You can have an environment, and if you do not have the emotional maturity, you're still going to be what they call an alpha woman. You're still going to be all of these different type of things. But I think it messes with our pride in the version of ourselves we think we are.
Yeah.
So when we hear submission, it's like, I'm that. It's like, but you're not, because you can't even submit to God. You can't even, you're arguing with me on this post about submission. So I know you're not submitting to a man, but I think it messes with our pride. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And it also messes with the direction of culture right now. The whole feminist wave that is happening, where I don't need a man, I can get my own bag. Some of it, and I'm not going to just blame ourselves, but some cases, women have been made to be hyper independent.
For sure. Some of it, a lot of it is,
Of course. So we had the man leave, or we had the husband not do us right, or we didn't have the father. So we've had to put this thing on. And so there was a real conversation where I had to have my husband like, I don't know how to do this. But that takes humility. It takes humility to say, let's start from bottom. What does this actually mean? If I open up this word and it tells me to submit, sis, that don't mean partnership. Because a lot of times women don't submit unless they agree. That's not submission, that's partnership. Submitting is, I don't agree with you, but I trust you as my head, so I'm still gonna follow. I actually think this is really dumb, actually. But I'm gonna follow because I'm called to that. But I think it's a plethora of things. I think it's culture. So if we can go down the alley of what is our gates consuming, right? So if we are consuming more of social media, we're consuming more of secular music, we're consuming more of these podcasts that is going back and forth, they're rating the women and alpha and beta male and red pill and blue. We consume more of this. Of course, we're mad at the word submission. Of course. But I always say this, I challenge everyone to make sure the word, godly community, worship, prayer, fasting is outweighing secular content. Of course, we consume some, but make sure it's outweighing it. Because even when what ends up happening is you're consuming godly content. So when you see something on social media, you're like, oh, that's a lie. That ain't true. I'm not going to stick to that. I won't let that settle in my spirit. So even when I hear these things of women saying certain stuff, I'm like, sis, you don't know how beautiful it is to submit. You don't know the protection that comes with this when you do it. You're not understanding that this is protection, that this was the boundary that God gave us. It's not a weaker than, it's, I love you, daughter. I'm going to put someone ahead of you. I'm going to put someone in front of you so he can get the blows first. I don't want to be in front of you. I don't want to get the hits from the enemy first. So I think overall, my main point is I think we are just consuming way too much culture. And so when we hear Bible, we think it's a lie because we've made culture the truth.
Yeah.
That's real.
I can't even say nothing after that.
I can't say nothing after that. Man, listen, thank y'all so much. Yeah. I say that on behalf of both of us, on everybody listening right now. Give everyone the details of how they can listen to the podcast, how they can follow you guys and everything like that.
Yeah, so you can follow us at the Iwegbus, THEIWEGBUS on Instagram, all platforms. You can also, every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be live. So our YouTube page, you can also find us, the Iwegbus, there. So on all platforms, even your podcast, you'll find us on there that way. Anything I'm leaving out?
No, I mean, just pull up, y'all. It's a
your ladies of light? You want to let them know about that for the ladies that want to tap in with you?
Yeah, God has given me just the direction and instruction to lead women to get back to the original design of what God created us to be. It is so much better on this side, sis. Come on over here where God created us to love, to be gentle, to be compassionate, to embark on this journey of just being used by God fully in every single area. And I believe that everything is better when it is done with community. So if you want a community, a sisterhood, just DM me, let me know you want to get in, I'll add you.
Man, listen.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all for being here, man. Listen, we know that everyone tapped in, definitely had I hope y'all, I'm going to go back and listen to this one. I'm not even going to hold you. But listen, thank y'all once again for tuning in here at the 116 Live here on Holy Culture Radio, Sirius XM Channel 140. As always, we'll see you guys next week.